if you've got a Les Paul that looks like this, but you'd like it to look like this again, I think I made a thing that could possibly help you. Hi there, Andy from Angst Relics. Hope you're both well. The guitar in question is this Les Paul, which was broken. I have since repaired it. The headstock was entirely broken off, and as you can see, it's quite a nice, it's a Epiphone Les Paul custom shop Goldtop reissue from some year, I don't know. Firstly, is it a Les Paul or a Les Paul? That's the question, isn't it, really? I think the Americans call it a Les Paul. We call it a Les Paul. Les. Now, he was a Lester, so it probably is a Les. But that's such a lot of effort to say. All that mouth movement. Les Paul, you can mumble it, can't you? Mumble it. You can just mumble it, Les Paul. It's a Les Paul, Les Paul. Les Paul's more rock and roll. I'm going to stick with that. Right, so this is the guitar. As you can see, lovely, lovely, lovely gold top. Headstock entirely broken off. I've made a jig to repair it, which first enables you to clamp it and then enables you to route it. So if you've got a Les or Les Paul in your cupboard with headstock broken off and you're thinking, I'd like to repair that, you could probably make this jig and do it yourself. It's not that difficult. I didn't video the repairing of it because I wasn't sure how well the jig was going to work. Hadn't used it before. Didn't really need the pressure of making a video as well. Just wanted to get on with it. But if I do another one, I will make a video. But I can show you how the jig works. And it's a fairly simple job to make one yourself. So let's give that a little look, shall we? I'll show you the jig. We'll go from there. My other question with the Les Paul is beautiful. Really? We care a lot? Not a lot. What's that about? That's just like, we'll have the front gold and then the back is sort of, well, I don't know what colour it is really. It's sort of, it's neither red nor brown. It's just, and shall we bother to fill it and make it? No, let's not. I'll tell you what, shall we put some covers on it that match? No. Why would we bother with that? It's just, that's nice. That's nice. That, really? Why would you do that? Terrible idea. Not only is it just a sort of a browny colour, it's like a lumpy brown because they haven't sanded it and filled it. It's just, oh my goodness. Why? And also, if you're interested in why the headstocks break off, when I had the headstock in my hand, thus, it weighed next to nothing, almost nothing. You could barely tell it was there. It's just, it's got a joint on it there, isn't it? So that's where it's going to go. I imagine somebody looked at it funny and it went. Anyway, I'm going to show you the jig. Okay, so this is the jig in question. It's got an articulated part in there, and it's set up at the moment to glue and clamp the neck. So the base is made of 18mm ply with these here and that one there, which to bolt it down to the bench. That follows the taper of the neck. On here there goes a clamp with some soft material like there is in here. This is basically the stuff you put on the bottom of a on your furniture to stop it damaging your floor. Articulated part here to enable you to pop it in and then raise that so that you can deal with the neck angle whilst you're gluing it. There's a couple of clamps here that I bought from Amazon. I cut the bottom part of the clamps off. I've left them a little bit floating so that when you clamp it, they'll all move about a little bit and they'll find their own level. This is hinged with smallest hinges, half decent hinges I could find, to enable me to cut that section out there, because that's broadly where the break is, where the glue's going to drop through, and when it drops through, you want it to drop straight through and not land on there, and so the guitar and this become one. That's what that is there to avoid. Some more material on there to stop it getting damaged. Material in there, the padding, and that's for the gluing. So I'll show you how we do that. I'll change position and then we can go from there. You've got the base with the two rails, all made out of 18mm ply. In use, this will be bolted down to the bench. You've got two rails here, which are just to hold the neck in place. The articulated part here. So soft padded material over there to deal with the body of the guitar. You can then slip that in there. I say bear in mind it's going to be in two pieces at this point. And get it to where it needs to be. You can then bolt that down. Like so. Wing nuts on there. When you get that set up right, a couple of wedges under there just to hold that in place. You can then screw these down, off it all up first, and you can glue it up. A little bit of pressure like that, so it's all clamped in. It's clamped there, clamping it down there, leave it for a few days. Comes out and it's, once again, rather than a Les and a Paul, it's a Les Paul, or a Les Paul, who knows. Then some slightly different rails that I've made to allow for the routing to be done. Okay, so I've taken these rails off, the original rails, the neck slits in, and I've added these rails. So there's a 60mm rail and a 50mm rail, 50mm rail, 60mm rail. So it's all set up. That's the router base, which is 90mm across in the case of mine. So you have to do the measurements based on yours. So that would give me that sort of movement down that side, and then the same thing down that side, which puts the router bit in the position that I wanted it. So what I discovered partway through was that when I was sort of setting it up and wondering the best way to do it, I realised I was going to have to sort of elevate the body of the guitar a little bit, because I wanted to come fairly far forward into the headstock and I didn't want to pop through the front. So you got your rails there. The clamp sort of thing is still all in position. That's all just 6mm rod with, I don't know if you can see them, but there's some little I don't know what they're called really, but they've got 6mm thread in them, and you just tap them into the wood, and then they hold. so you can sort of bolt everything down. Taking that off the back so that the articulated part can lay flat, which gets us to where we want to be. So at this point, oops, so that's sitting in there like so. Like I say, I realised I had to elevate the body a little bit, and I happen to own one of these, which is from Hellfire Tools. It's a Gazunder, which is a neck rest, but I found that was very good for propping the body up with it because it's soft yet firm. So that gave me what I needed there. As you can see, that's elevated. Clamp that down like before. Don't have to be clamped very hard, just enough to hold it in place. And then I fed a little stop in there, which I just put in with a clamp, just a piece of wood across there and a piece of wood across there, just to get me sort of final positions of where I was going to go, and then routed it like so until I was at a sufficient depth, as far down as I dared go, and that got me the 2 routes that I needed. Okay, so the router bit that I used was approximately 6mm. So I've got a block of maple that I've cut a piece, 7mm wide, then cut that into 2, and then started shaping it by hand. I took some sandpaper, which I would normally use on a fret leveling beam, tape on the back of it, so taped it down, and then just shaped the wood by hand, just like that. Took about 45 minutes to do the pair, I suppose. Got them so that they were tight and you had to pull them out with a pair of pliers. The piece of wood that I had was probably twice as big as it needed to be, but that's no big problem. You had to pull it out with a pair of pliers. So I then took it down a little bit further carefully, just a little bit of sanding. Kept doing that until you could push them in and pull them out by hand. Called that good. Glued them in, clamped them, left it for a few days. I then used this, which is a really tiny, it's for modelling apparently, a spoke shave, which I then shaped those 2 pieces up with. That was really good. That's a spoke shave from, who's it from? Veritas Tools. Really good. A little bit of a sand, bit of filler, more of a sand. The front of the neck, the headstock. So that was obviously the crack came across like that, kind of over to about there somewhere. So, and where it had been glued, some glue was sort of hanging off, so I had to sand that. So I masked all that section off there because I didn't want to have to deal with the lettering in any way, shape or form. So I masked that off, sanded that off, filled it, same as the back, with 2-part wood filler. Let that dry, sanded that off. Okay, so then it came to refinishing the headstock. And so I went over the whole thing with micro mesh, just to give it a little bit of a key. And then using an airbrush, I use water-based stuff, fantastic these days. Vallejo black, and I just sort of did that bit, feathered it in a little bit. When it was dry, a little quick once over with this again, micro mesh, and then after that, 5 layers of clear coat. I use Hyperion, really good. Again with an airbrush, 5 coats of Hyperion, a little bit of a level sand, 5 more coats, level sand, and then this is where we are. So I think we're going to leave the back as it is. I struggled to find this, whatever colour this is. Didn't seem to be freely available. The person whose guitar it is kind of quite happy with the relic kind of thing. I think it's honest, you know. It's a repair. It becomes a usable guitar again. You can see it's been repaired, but we're not trying to hide that. I think it'll be very playable. Apparently it was before. I did notice that a few of the frets were a little bit high in a few places. I just checked that while I got the strings off, leveled, crowned, polished them. So I think that'll be good. What I'll do next is string it up and let you know if it all holds in place. Okay, so I restrung it and tuned it to pitch. Left it for about a week, and you could feel a little ridge there indicating there was some movement in that direction. All the pressure is downwards and outwards, and so you could feel a little ridge there. And on the front, the clear coat was cracked. I couldn't really tell whether it was still moving or not. So what I did was I just resanded that level. That was just literally a few passes with some 400 grit, and lo and behold, it was flat again. Left it for another week or so, probably a fortnight by now, to be honest. There's been no further movement, so I think it was just it settling back into place. So I've re-level sanded the front just to improve the appearance. I haven't done anything with the crack at all that was there, other than level sanding that area and repolishing it just to improve the appearance, really. The remit was to turn this into a functioning guitar, no more than it had to have done to it to achieve that. It's got its scars. I quite like it with the scars, to be honest. I think it's okay. I like it. Like all guitars I've ever worked on, I've fallen in love with it a little bit. So I'm just going to have a quick play on it, and then I'll leave you to go back to your knitting or Vera or CSI, whatever you were doing before I so rudely interrupted you. Peace and love. Bye.